What can you tell me about your experience about this movie?
Well, The Living Matrix, it has some wonderful presenters and speakers in it. Lynn McTaggart, who is the author of The Field and the Intention Experiment. Rupert Sheldrake, who speaks about morphogenetic fields, and many people sort of find a connection between that and critical mass, you know, as we hit certain levels in the planet and a certain number of people pick up a level of awareness than the rest of the world does. Bruce Lipton, who is the author of The Biology of Belief, yes, an amazing, amazing teacher. Plus some people from IONS, which is the Institute of Noetic Science, including Marilyn Mandela Schlitz, who is, I believe, the president of IONS. So, interestingly enough, Dan Brown, who's the author of the Da Vinci Code, his new book just came out, I believe, last week, called The Lost Symbol. And of course, it's also huge. And one of the main characters in the book is supposedly a composite between Lynn McTaggart and Marilyn Mandela Schlitz. Wow. So that's becoming quite interesting, too. And it's very interesting. As this film was being made, multiple times the producers would contact me to see if I wanted to be a part of it. And of course, my schedule was very busy, and so was theirs. And they were talking to researchers about the concept of healing and energy healing and mind over matter and how it might work. And of course, you know, reconnective healing takes us very far beyond that, so it's not exactly the same material. But I guess the reconnection and reconnective healing kept coming to them, so finally they contacted us again. And I was in Europe on my tour and asked if I'd fly out and do an interview, and I said, of course I would. So a lot of their movies talking about, you know, various kinds of energy approaches. And then here I am talking about, you know, something going, well, that's fine, and we love that, and how about we can go beyond that now? And so I talk about these different things in the interview, and they said, what was your most dramatic healing? Which, of course, is a question most everyone asks, and I think in their mind, they expect that I've got some very special healing that I keep on the mantle of my fireplace. I'm going to take it down and dust it off and share it with them. And it's not that way. The reality is that whatever time you ask me what was my most dramatic healing, it's truly always the most recent one. So they said, what was that? And I explained. I had just come back from Thessaloniki, Greece, the second largest city there. I had just given a presentation for a few hours at a small miniature coliseum type of a setting, and afterwards I was leaving to go upstairs and outside to where they were arranging the book signing. And at that point in time, a group of people came carrying up this young child who had metal leg braces on. He couldn't walk. He had cerebral palsy. His toes could touch the ground, but his heel couldn't. He was scheduled for surgery in the muscles of his legs to see if they could get that handled. He couldn't really walk. He couldn't speak. He could only speak in monosyllable, you know, type sounds that the mother would interpret for the family. He'd have to hold on to the parents or the furniture to walk. He'd have to sit to push himself downstairs or crawl to go upstairs.
But at the point when they bring the child, you have no idea of this.
Well, I know something is going on.
But
only because I see the leg braces.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know the whole story, and I didn't understand much. And they just said to me he had cerebral palsy, and would you work on him? And I said, well, they're taking me up now for the book signing. I said, after the book signing, I'll come back down. So I finished the signing, and I came down and let him be on the table on the stage and began to work. But we only had 4 minutes. I didn't know that when we started. We started to work, and 4 minutes into it, they said they're turning off the lights. I think in the movie, the mother explains that she met us for about 15 minutes. She did, all combined, but we only had 4 minutes to work. So they said we had to stop. So the friends who carried the child up took the child up off the table. I was trying to speak to the parents through an interpreter because I don't speak Greek and I don't speak English, and they didn't really believe in this work, which is why they didn't volunteer to bring him up when I asked for volunteers to demonstrate on during the presentation. The friends kind of talked them into it. And all of a sudden I saw them turn their heads. And I looked to see what they were looking at, and apparently this little boy, Demetrius, this little 5-year-old boy, who'd been unable to walk, had walked by himself off the stage, down the steps, and ascended the entire staircase of the Coliseum. He was standing at the top with his arms out in this huge smile.
Wow.
And the parents started to get nervous as he began to sort of walk, jump down the steps. And they ran over to get him as if they were going to save him from something. He saw them coming, he goes, no, I'm going to do it again. And he ran up and he came back down. Well, needless to say, the mother decided to attend the seminar. I said, why don't you bring little Demetrios down, because we're giving the seminar in Athens, and you can share the story with the people there. And she said the strangest thing. She said, I don't want parents to get up false hope. I thought that's a really odd thing to say, because she just saw her child walk after 5 years, but I didn't want to push the mother of the child. She came down, she took the seminar. The next weekend, she said, can I bring Demetrios down to see you? And I said, of course. So came a whole group of people with Demetrios. They came up to my hotel room. The leg braces weren't on. Demetrios said through a translator, look, I can run. And he ran down the hallway and ran back. He said, look what else I can do. I can stand on one leg and spin in a complete circle, and he did. Then he said, and I can open my right hand. What I didn't know was that his entire life he was unable to open his right hand.
Wow.
He couldn't even hug his parents with both arms. He said, look, I can drink my own glass of water. And then I realized he was speaking, and everyone, except me, because it was Greek, could understand him. This is the type of research that makes the scientists excited about what is so dramatically different about reconnective healing than any form of energy healing that we've ever known of before. The healings seem to happen like this. It just completely defies the illusion of limitations of time and space, and almost every time the healings last for the lifetime of the person. I just got back from Russia. While I was there in Russia, I gave 2 presentations. One big presentation in Moscow, but before that, I was in St. Petersburg with Dr. Konstantin Korotkov, who's an internationally
I know him.
Renowned researcher, fine. And he had organized a group of doctors who wanted to begin to learn how to work with this. So we only had 2 nights. And for volunteers to lie on the table to be models for these doctors, he got Olympic Russian athletes. Now, what was interesting was so this had been arranged for a while. So one of the 4, I think there were about 4 athletes or so, one of them, just 4 days before the event, broke his leg. So he came in with a cast, you know, one leg raised up in the air, a cast on crutches. He had to like hop on the good leg. At the end of the second night, or just in the middle of the second evening, he was able to walk again.
Wow.
The doctors were shocked. We had amazing research aspects of it. And one journal, a good peer-reviewed research journal, came out with 4 research articles on reconnective healing. What they're so intrigued about is how instantaneously it can be taught. When we bring the seminar to Caracas in November, we're teaching people it will take only 1 weekend. By the end of that weekend, everyone in that seminar will be able to access and facilitate any level of healing that I can, and any level of healing that any human being on this planet can facilitate, as long as they are willing to allow themselves to let go of the techniques. The thing about the techniques has been, it's been, as we talked about last time, like training wheels on a bicycle. It helps us get closer, but we have to take the training wheels off. And what we find sometimes is that we teach some people and then they try to add to the technique of reconnective healing. And when they try to add to it, what they're doing is putting they're putting training wheels back onto the bicycle. And of course, they don't ride as well. So when you're looking for someone who does reconnective healing, the way to know that you're going to someone who brings it through the best is when you're going to someone who does not use any more training wheels, who doesn't add to it, who doesn't try to make it more than it is, and who doesn't do any energy healing techniques any longer, because they've allowed themselves that ego-free space of transcending the technique.
Yeah.